Okay, an estimated 7,500 Central American migrants continue their march through Mexico this morning. Most are making their way on foot through southern Mexico. They are still at least 1,100 miles away from the U.S. border. This comes as President Trump tries to characterize them all as criminals. CNN's Bill Weir is traveling with the caravan in Mexico. He joins us now live with the facts. Bill, tell us your experience.
Well, good morning, friends, from Wixla, Mexico. We're now about 50 miles inside the southern border, and you can see the town square here again is sort of an impromptu dormitory for the caravan. Families huddled together. You see the candles in the center there. That's a makeshift memorial for yesterday's death on the road. I'll tell you about that here as we try to give you a little sense of what it's like while America argues over these people. They just put their heads down and keep walking north. Another day on the caravan road. Another 25 hard miles under a merciless Mexican sun. Another meal out of the back of a kind stranger's trunk. And for the lucky ones, another ride in a kind stranger's truck. Packed so tight, the tires nearly pop. On Monday, another man fell to his death on a ride like this, the second confirmed fatality. But as pregnant women begin to wilt in the heat, many worry they won't be the last. And yet, as thousands of families try to keep the faith, while a full-blown humanitarian crisis moves north, there came another round of insults and threats from the President of the United States. President Trump thinks that you are an invading band of criminals, possibly terrorists, and is threatening to use soldiers to keep you out or separate families. What would you say to him? We are an honorable people. We're workers. Would he call a group of kids terrorists? A group of women who need help? We're asking for his support, but of course we know he has no conscience. He's crazy. Paulo is a volunteer with an organization called Pueblo Sin Fronteras, or Towns Without Borders, formed to help protect migrants, and now a target of conspiracy theorists who refuse to believe that this caravan is fueled only by desperation. There are some who believe that you're being organized for political reasons or being paid to do this. There's a lot of people, so there could be some with bad intentions. But if you look around, there are lots of mothers with young kids. Why would they want to come here if they weren't so desperate? President Trump also tweeted that the U.S. will now be cutting off or substantially reducing the foreign aid given to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Those three countries were scheduled to receive less than $200 million next year. And for comparison, a country like Egypt gets about 6 times that amount. But immigration reformers say every little bit helps for these really poor countries. And cutting them off only makes this problem that much worse. So how far will you go today? Jose is a taxi driver from Honduras, where things were so bad he couldn't afford gasoline to fill his cab. And he has heard of the president's tweets. He's using the pictures of the big caravan and saying that's a mob of criminals. And there's even Middle Eastern possible terrorists in there. I don't understand why he's saying that, he says. We're not terrorists. Our country is very violent, but the people are poor people. Do you have children? Niños? Niñas? That's what hurts me the most, is I have 3 kids, and I had to leave them behind because there's no job. When do you think you'll see them again? I don't know, he says. It's up to God. It's hard, yeah. Jose, it's okay. Gracias, gracias. And so for a 12th day, they walk through jungles and towards deserts with little more than faith and hope and each other.
Bill, I'm so glad you're speaking to the people who are actually there as opposed to the ones that some are suggesting are there. Let me ask you, this is not the first caravan. Historically speaking, how many people who who travel in groups like this actually make it all the way to the U.S. border, which is very far from where you are?
It's very far. I mean, Brownsville, Texas is 1,000 miles, but those who want to go to Tijuana, that's 2,000 miles, and they'll probably disperse and decide which way they're going to try to cross. But yeah, for historical comparison, this has been going on for generations. 20 years ago, the American Border Patrol was arresting north of 1 million people a year. Now it's a third of that. And yes, the family arrests have spiked in the 3 months since the family separations ended in the summer there. But this is economics. I mean, if the minimum wage in Canada was $100 an hour, how many of us would be swimming, from Detroit to Windsor, right? So there's nothing new about this. The only thing that makes this such a sizzling story is the timing of it, right? And what's interesting is a lot of the Honduras who left Honduras did so because the president there, supported by Donald Trump, won a very contested election and then really turned into a strongman, started cracking down on opposition, stacking the courts with his cronies, and lots of international accusations of corruption there. And then as the caravan picks up steam, you got people from other countries say, hey, now's my shot. I'm going to join the safety in numbers. Mexicans are now joining the caravan as it moves north. And then, of course, to complicate all of this, there is a hurricane headed towards Mexico. And last night, I got to say, I was reading Twitter and reading the responses. There are Americans praying for that hurricane to kill these people. That's where we have come. That's where this rhetoric has led to, John and Allison. But these folks you talk to, you come down here, you hang out with them, you meet them. They have nothing. They've offered us their food. They've offered us their water.
Bill, it's really helpful to have you on the ground and to hear their motivation and how searing it is for them to leave their families behind. That's just a good perspective for people to hear. Thank you very much.